them still aren't in. So in case you don't know what the midterm elections are, the presidential term is 4 years, and halfway through that, they hold the midterm elections. So the United States Congress, these are the legislature of the United States, and it's divided into two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. So there are 435 people in the Senate, and every single one of them faces re-election every 2 years. In the Senate, there are 100 people, and a third of them face election every 2 years. So the senatorial term is 6 years. So 1/3 were elected in 2022, a third of them will face election 2024, a third of them will face election 2026. Those who were elected in 2022 face re-election in 2028, unless of course they wish to retire from the Senate, and so forth. So it's 1/3 renewing every 2 years, the United States Senate. Anyway, so there are 2 senators for each state, regardless of population, and there are 50 states. California, with the highest population, is allotted 2 senators. Wyoming, with the smallest population, is allotted 2 senators. Whereas in the House of Representatives, it's digressively proportional. They will have at least 1 representative, no matter how teensy their population, because Wyoming has got less than 1/435th of the population. If anything, you'd merge it with another state for the sake of representatives to make it, well, representative, proportional. But they don't do that. And California obviously has the most representatives, but it doesn't have as many as would be proportional to its enormous population. So that's the way it works. Now, usually in the midterms, the party that holds the White House loses, and this doesn't appear to be an exception. Cast my mind back 4 years ago, the last midterms in 2018, and the Democrats won, by American terms, fairly handily, by 8 percentage points. Anyway, the Republicans seem to have not done very well this time. So in order to command a majority in the House of Representatives, you need 418 seats. Now, so far the Republicans got 211, but there are quite a few seats left to declare. There are roughly 30 seats haven't come in, and the Democrats have got 197. So it's likely the Republicans will get a majority, but narrowly, like 220, 225, something like that. They're talking about a red wave, but that hasn't happened. Like 2018 was seen as a wave year for the Democrats because they captured the Senate and the House of Representatives. But these are often by very narrow majorities. This is partly because of redistricting. So each state, for the purposes of the US Congress, is divided into congressional districts, unless it's got a very small population like Wyoming, in which case the whole state is 1 congressional district. If you have 2 or more, then you divide it, lines on the map, and they very boringly name it the 1st congressional district and the 2nd congressional district. And then it could be the 3rd congressional district, up to the 40th congressional district, or whatever it is in California. They don't say Northeast California, South Central LA, they don't say the San Gabriel Mountains, they don't give geographical names, just 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever, congressional district within each state. Now, it's up to the state legislature to draw the boundaries between the different congressional districts. And there has always been a degree of partisanship, but there is now extreme partisanship in this. So the United States is the country which gave us gerrymandering, invented by the governor of Massachusetts and subsequently the vice president, Eldridge Gerry, which is drawing boundaries of electoral districts with the objective of maximizing partisan advantage. And this is by the twin stratagems of packing and cracking, which is to say you want to spread your support as efficiently as possible. Suppose there are only 2 parties. What you'd want is 51% of your supporters in this district to make sure you win it, and so on. Obviously, you'd love to win by 100%, but that's not going to happen. More efficient is to narrowly win it. On the other hand, your opponent's supporters, you'd like them to be just under majority, 49%, something like that. Now, you can't avoid your opponent winning some electoral districts, so all right, we will allot them some, but let's make sure that they win it very inefficiently by corralling all their supporters in one area, by having us close to 100%. So the packing is by making sure there are as many of your opponent's supporters in one area as possible, and cracking is by splitting yours such that you're just going to win. Now, winning by 51% margin, that is That doesn't leave any room for error. What if you have a rather poor candidate, or your opponent runs a very spirited campaign? So we'll give ourselves a bit more of a margin of error and try and make it just 55%. So that's roughly it. It's all about efficient distribution of your electoral support. If your electoral support is too geographically concentrated, that won't maximize your representation. Equally, if it's too thinly scattered, then you'll be just missing out, losing by a few percentage points each time. And now it's been taken to extreme levels. They say something like 94% of congressional districts are not competitive. They're either safe for the Democrats or the Republicans, which is to say, winning by a margin of over 10 percentage points. Now, a so-called safe one, it can fall, but it's rare. It's very difficult. So Donald Trump, he endorsed hundreds of Republican candidates, and roughly 70 of them have been elected to the House of Representatives. Those election deniers, those who claim that President Trump did not lose the 2020 election, therefore he is the rightful president, that Joe Biden is an illegitimate president, and these flagrant lies like that. Perpetuating these proven bogus statements that millions of Trump votes were discounted, that millions of false votes for Biden were counted, and so forth. But now some Republicans have seen how this is actually backfiring on them, because if you're a Republican voter and you believe that the election's rigged anyway, don't vote. It's very demotivating. All you do is confer a semblance of legitimacy on it by casting your ballot. Therefore, refuse to participate in what is a charade if the result has been decided by the globalist conspiracy months in advance. So it's not a very good year for the Republicans. It's not a terrible year. As I say, they're probably going to take the House and the Senate. So the Republicans already got 49 this election. The Democrats have got 48. 3 are yet to be decided. Remember, it was 50-50 before. And when the House is equally divided, according to the Constitution, the Vice President casts the tie-breaking vote. And that is, of course, Kamala Harris, a Democrat, so she's going to vote with the Democrats. Now, things are not absolutely partisan. Occasionally, a Republican will vote the way most Democrats are voting. Sometimes a Democrat will vote the way most Republicans are voting. Some people will abstain, and so on. So the Democrats will probably get 50, and the Republicans will probably get 50 again. So that's a moral victory for the Democrats. So the Democrats have done rather better than was anticipated. Herschel Walker in Georgia, his election's not been decided because under Georgian law, if nobody gets 50% of the first round, then the top two candidates go through to a second round held a couple of weeks later. The lower candidates are eliminated. They know who's ever elected senator for Georgia has the support of a majority of those who voted. So Herschel Walker, this former football player, and he's an African-American. There are not many African-American Republicans in Georgia, but he's also a pathological liar, a fantasist, and so on. He's an outstanding athlete, but that doesn't necessarily make him an excellent senator. And there have been some scandals over his private life, over supposedly hypocritical behavior. But will he win on the second round? So the Democrat won narrowly, like by about 2 percentage points first time. Go to the second round. The Libertarians, the only remotely significant candidate, who's going to be eliminated. But you think most of those Libertarians will be more inclined towards the Republicans. They might not vote at all. So it's really hard to say who's going to win. So it's looking bad for Trump because not that many of those Trumpsters got elected. Some Trumpists are saying, former Trumpists, people are saying he's actually a millstone around our neck. He's a problem. He's yesterday's man. We need to move forward. Okay, Ron DeSantis did very well. There are a lot of gubernatorial races. The governor of Florida, he was elected by a thumping majority with a 20 percentage point lead. Last time he won by less than 1%. So he could be the Republican standard bearer in the 2024 presidential race. He's 44 and he'd be a much better pick than Donald Trump. He's a lawyer. He's educated at one of the top universities. So he appeals to some people that Trump appeals to. He doesn't alienate so many people, and he doesn't have such a scandal-struck private life. He's not a pathological liar. He's not so irascible. He's not prone to Twitter storms in the wee hours. And there'd be youth versus age, someone age 46 against someone age 80, when their worries about Biden's health, his fitness to execute his presidential duties. You couldn't say the same about Ron DeSantis. And being governor of the third most populous state, he's vital because California is safely Democrat. Texas is fairly safely Republican. New York is safely Democrat. But Florida is often won by wafer-thin majorities. So the Republicans lose Florida, it's very difficult to win the whole election. It's got 27 electoral votes. And so many Floridians who are not inclined to vote Republican always would cast their ballots for Ron DeSantis because they want a Floridian to be president for the very first time. Obviously, there are people who have died in the wool Republicans, and there are people who died in the wool Democrats in Florida. But of course, there are independents, the so-called swing voters. But if DeSantis stood for the presidency, a lot of those swing voters in Florida would go his way. And so the Republicans will be virtually guaranteed to win that crucial state. Right, thank you so much for watching my channel. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon and donate on PayPal. Goodbye.